Hello viewers, just a quick word of introduction to this video. This isn't a story in my usual style. This is a teleplay, a script I wrote for my unproduced TV sitcom way back in 1996. It's also the first work of fiction I ever produced. I wrote it drawing upon ideas I had stemming from my experiences of working in a live music venue in the early 90s. Although, when I say that, I should stress that none of these events ever happened. It's all totally made up. Anyway, after the place closed down, I thought, hey, a music venue. That could be a good location for a sitcom. So I sat down and studied a load of British sitcoms from the 70s through to the 90s, and then I had a go at it. And this was the result. Glitterballs, a 6-part series, as per the standard series length for British TV sitcoms then and now. When I'd finished, I sent the best script in to the BBC, ITV and Channel 4, because at the time they were the only TV channels around, and then, shortly after, they kindly sent me my rejection slips. And that was it. I gave up, put the scripts in a box under my bed and forgot all about it. Until 2016, when I decided to read the scripts for podcast. Everything on the page, of course, both the character dialogue and the stage directions, so you, the listener, know what's going on. And so that is what this is, episode 1, the pilot, as it were, of a sitcom that never was. I hope you enjoy it. I'll fade out now to me, fading in from the original podcast introduction. Enough chit-chat, let's get on with it, shall we? Join me, if you will, on a journey back through time to a small town called Dinglebury in the southeast of England in the mid-1990s, and a ballroom called Glitterballs, a situation comedy written for television but performed for podcast by Mike Bennett. Episode 1, Doors Open. 1. Doors Open. Scene 1. Glitterballs Ballroom, nighttime. A group of some 15 or so smartly dressed men and women are dancing around a large, spacious ballroom under pretty coloured lighting, much of it reflected from an array of mirror balls of differing sizes. On the stage, a small, rather uninspired group of bow-tied musicians are playing a selection of old favourites. At the bar, a young woman and a young man, both smartly dressed, are lacklusterly cleaning glasses in an attempt to look busy. An elderly gentleman approaches the bar and the girl smiles warmly. Mr. Reynolds. Hello, half of best bitter and a gin and tonic, please. Sally. Certainly, Mr. Reynolds. Having a nice evening? Mr. Reynolds. Very nice, thank you. Not many in again tonight. Pity. They don't know what they're missing. The young man behind the bar has lit a cigarette and is absently smoking it when a hand reaches out and pulls him out of view by the ear. Sally and Mr. Reynolds, hearing his cry of surprise, look to the spot where the boy was a moment earlier, where now only a thinning cloud of smoke remains. Mr. Reynolds looks at Sally with concern. Sally smiles. Sally. Any nibbles with that? Scene 2. Small hallway, leading off from the bar, out of view of the customers. Max Price, owner and manager of Glitterballs, is still holding the squirming barman by the ear. Max is about 45 to 50 years of age. He's wearing a dark suit, as is his custom. His appearance is crisp and efficient. Max. How many times must you be told, Gary? Smoking behind the bar is against the law. He releases Gary's ear and plucks the cigarette distastefully from Gary's fingers. Gary. Sorry, Mr. Price. I forgot. It's so quiet tonight, and I... Max, impatiently interrupting. You what, Gary? Gary. It's just something to do with me hands. Max, long-sufferingly. Gary, I'm paying for your hands to be working, lad, employing them to serve people, to wash and clean glasses and ashtrays, and do all the other little things that make this bar the paragon of bars. The bar folk come flocking to. Gary looks confused. To spend their hard-earned wages. Gary looks out at the crowd doubtfully. Max follows his gaze, and from his point of view, we see the crowd are mostly old and somewhat doddery. They both look back to each other again, and Max corrects his sentence, or pensions even, for a glass or two of cheer, and knowing that glass of cheer will be free from dust, dirt, and the cheerless burnt droppings from your mucky little habit. Gary: But, Mr. Price, there's been nobody here to serve. We've cleaned the bar from top to bottom, the ashtrays and all the glasses. We've even cleaned the clean ones. They are joined by Sally. Sally: He's right, Mr. Price. We've even polished the cans of polish, it's so quiet. Max looks out onto the ballroom floor at the few couples dancing slowly about and sighs. He turns to Gary, gesturing with the cigarette. Well, if one of the shuffling few out there were from the EHO and saw you puffing away behind the bar, we'd be even quieter. So don't let me catch you at it again. He drops the cigarette butt into a used coffee mug in the sink under the bar, where it hisses out in the dregs. Understand? Gary: Yes, Mr. Price. At this moment, Max's wife, Doreen, walks past them. An attractive woman of similar age to Max, she dresses with simple, comfortable elegance. Max looks after her, an expression of consternation on his face. He leaves the bar staff and goes after her. Scene 3, kitchen. Max: Doreen? Doreen stops and turns. Yes? Max, with a little laugh of disbelief. What do you think you're doing? Doreen, brightly: I'm going to get a bite to eat. I'm hungry. Max: What about the door? Who's in the box office? Doreen: Nobody, dear. Is that a problem? Max, sarcastically: Oh, no. Just 100 or so people may pour in without paying while you're off stuffing your face, that's all. Hardly a problem. Doreen, ignoring him: Yes, Max. She turns and continues. Max goes after her. Doreen, get back on that door. Doreen halts suddenly. Max: I'll make you a sandwich or something. Doreen turns on Max, cutting him off. Doreen: What did you say? Max, suddenly anxious: I said I'd make you a sandwich, dear. Don't trouble yourself. Doreen, slowly walking towards Max: Don't you dare order me around, Maximilian Price. Do you hear me? Doreen is eye to eye with Max. She presses her index finger firmly onto the tip of his nose, which bends slightly with the pressure. Doreen: Do you? Max, quietly, fearfully: Yes, my love. Doreen, speaking quietly, slowly. She slides her finger down over Max's lips, over his chin. Good. Her finger continues down his neck and stops at his chest. Good boy. She looks down at her finger on his chest, then looks up smiling. Now, what was that you were saying about a sandwich? Max: I was about to suggest that you go and relax a while. I'll make you a sandwich and mind the box office myself. Doreen: Oh, Max, how kind. You're such a caring, thoughtful husband. She leans over slowly and kisses him gently on the cheek before turning and walking away. The camera stays on Max's face, a picture of fear and arousal as her footsteps slowly retreat. With slightly trembling hands, he fumbles open the wrapping of a loaf of bread. Scene 4, Glitterball's main office after closing. Max and Doreen at separate desks are concluding a counting and assessment of the night's takings. Max is looking depressed. Doreen pushes a small pile of notes and change to one side. Doreen, with resignation: Well, Max, another spectacularly disastrous evening in the rewarding and glamorous world of ballroom dancing. Why I ever went along with this idiotic purchase I'll never know. The only reward or glamour we might wring out of this place would be by burning it to the ground and running off with the insurance money to Monte Carlo. Max: I just don't understand it. Ballroom dancing is a very popular and highly profitable niche in the leisure market. All over the country, places like this are raking in a fortune. This place used to. The estate agent said all it needed was a bit of doing up to restore it to its former glory and we'd be laughing. Doreen: All the way to Beachy Head. Max: If it weren't for the occasional wedding reception, we'd be out of business. In a tone of dawning realization which rises into horror: Bankrupt! And a final wail of despair: Ruined! Max plunges his face into his hands and slumps forward onto his desk. Doreen comes over and places her arms around his shoulders and speaks reassuringly. Doreen: Max, it's not too late to sell up and move on. The place is worth much more now than it was a year ago when we bought it. Let's just get rid of the blasted thing and go back into pubs. Maybe we could even get our old place back. You know it's been doing badly since we left." Max draws in a long breath and rises from his hands into an upright position before letting the breath out in a brief sigh. "No, Doreen, that's going backwards. We have to stride forwards." His words have a reviving effect upon him. "We've chosen this road and we'll press on. You never know what we may come across." Max optimistically smiles at Doreen, whose expression remains unchanged from its earlier concern. Doreen: "Max, the only things we've come across on this road we've trodden in. The road ahead, as far as I can see, is littered only with increasingly bigger piles of the same, and I, for one, do not wish to go through the rest of my life struggling with an industrial-sized poo scoop." There is a knock at the door. Doreen returns to her desk. Max: "Come in." The door opens and Gary enters. Max: "Ah, Gary, all finished up down there?" Gary: "Yes, Mr. Price, all done. Sally's just seeing the last of 'em out." Max, conclusively, turning back to his desk. "A good show." Gary remains in the doorway, uncertain. Max, looking askance at Gary. "Something else, was there? A sub, perhaps?" Gary: "No, Mr. Price. I was going to ask you about the ballroom, actually." Max, turning, interested. "Oh? What about it?" Gary: "Well, you know you hire it out for private dues and stuff." Max: "Yes, I'm aware of that. Why? Know someone getting married, do you? Perhaps a birthday bash?" Gary, still edgy. No, nothing like that. Well, not really. It's just a bloke I know asked me whether or not you ever put gigs on here. I said I didn't know, but, I'd ask, like." Max, as if the word were from outer space. "Gigs?" Gary: "Concerts, like." Max, with a dismissive chuckle, turning back to his desk. "Goodness me, no. Concerts? Don't be absurd." Doreen, with interest. "What kind of concerts, Gary?" Gary, relaxing, tentatively pleased with Doreen's interest. "Well, local bands, like. He'd put a couple of local bands on in the hall, and they'd play in front of their mates and fans and anybody else who fancied coming along." Max: "No, thank you, Gary. This isn't that kind of place. We pride ourselves on—" Max is cut off as Doreen moves her chair, a swivel on casters, out from her desk a foot to position herself between Max and Gary. Max looks momentarily indignant before regaining professional composure. Doreen, smiling encouragingly. "Who is this friend of yours, Gary?" Gary: "His name's Tom Shepherd. He's done it before a few times in other places, and the nights are usually quite popular. He used to be in a band himself at one time. They—" Max, impatiently dismissive. "Yes, thank you, Gary, but—" Doreen, again, completely cutting Max off. "Tell him yes, we do, will you, Gary? And if he's interested, to give us a call, and we'll see if we can arrange something." Max, aghast. "But—" Doreen turns in her chair and looks straight at Max with a benign smile that freezes his protest, then turns back to Gary. Doreen: "Thank you, Gary. See you Wednesday evening?" Gary: "Yes, Mrs. Price. Righto. Good night, then." Doreen: "Good night, Gary." Max is still caught like a rabbit in the headlight's glare. Doreen turns and smiles at him. Max: "Yes. Good night, Gary." Gary exits, closing the door behind him. Max: "What on earth do you think you're doing? Are you quite mad? A gig?" He speaks the word as if he'd stepped in it. "Lots of long-haired, skin-headed, tattooed punk rockers taking drugs and being sick everywhere? Oh, my word, no. Not in my ballroom." Doreen, calmly at first, but getting angrier as she continues. "Max, that's our ballroom, and since this is the only proposal to come our way since we've been failing here that even hints of a potential profit margin, then yes." She leans forward so her face is close to his. "I'm mad enough to try it. I was mad enough to let you talk me into this stupid business in the first place. Profitable niche in the leisure market. Where did you read that?" Max: "Leisure Monthly." Doreen: "What issue? December 1921? Max: "The estate agent confirmed that it was a lucrative market when I signed the contract." Doreen: "This estate agent, he wasn't a red-skinned fellow with two little horns and a pointy beard, was he? He didn't disappear in a flash of fire and brimstone once he'd got your signature on the contract." Max: "How did you know?" Doreen looks at Max a moment, then smiles. Doreen: "No, Max, you were right when we said we had to stride forwards." She turns her back on him and walks away. She turns her back on him and walks away slowly. We can see the smile on her face and the creeping dread on Max's behind her as she savours her words. And if that means striding among a mass of long-haired, tattooed punk rockers, all zips and chains and natural odours, gorging themselves to excess on life's forbidden pleasures, then that's a sacrifice we'll just have to make. She looks back over her shoulder at Max, who shifts nervously in his seat. Scene 5, Glitterball's foyer. Daytime. The foyer is dark, but through the glass doors we can see a 20-something man stop and look over the front facade of the building before cupping his face and peering into the gloom. He's wearing jeans and a T-shirt with a suit jacket. His hair is short and slightly tousled. He is clean-shaven and wears a small nose ring. This is Tom Shepard. Scene 6. Outside Glitterballs, behind Tom. Tom looks about and finds a doorbell, which he presses. We hear nothing. He waits a short while before peering in again. He pushes the door, and to his mild surprise, it opens. He enters the foyer. Scene 7. Inside the foyer. Tom is moving forward, cautiously past the box office and through the double doors that lead into the ballroom. Scene 8. Inside the ballroom. From one spot, Tom takes in the layout of the ballroom, looking at the ceiling, the stage, the bar, and the dance floor. He smiles approvingly. Then hears a cry from somewhere else in the building. Tom. Hello? There is no reply, so he walks towards some doors marked private, staff only. His footsteps on the polished dance floor sound loud as he walks across it and reaches the doors. As he does so, he hears a second voice from somewhere behind the doors. We might recognize it as Doreen's, but it is muffled and has a harsh quality that leaves room for doubt. Doreen, out of view. Eat it, you pig! Tom hesitates. He knits his brows and checks his watch before knocking at the door. The voice seems to be coming from behind. Inside, we can see a few carpeted stairs leading up into darkness. Scene 9, top of the staircase looking down to Tom in the entrance. The walls are lit by a small amount of wall lights in red coverings. The walls are painted in rich dark colours and appear almost black. The carpet is thick red but worn to a black shine in the middle. Tom is silhouetted in the doorway. Then, again, clearer this time, voices are heard. Doreen, out of view, sadistically. Piggy likes his swill, doesn't he, Piggy? Max, out of view, snorts like a contented pig. Tom, quietly, loudly. Hello? Tom's voice sounds loud in the hall. Max, out of view, alarmed. What was that? Doreen, out of view. Quick! Tom begins to climb the stairs. In the background, we can hear fumbling, bumping, and muffled grunts of discomfort. A plate breaks. Doreen, out of view. Shit! Max, out of view. Chuck it in the bin! Hurry! Tom reaches the top of the stairs. His face has a big smile on it as he politely calls out, Tom. Mr. Price! Scene 10. Standing at the top of the stairs next to Tom, we look up and down a small corridor. The staircase has come up in the middle of it. It is similarly lit to the stairs, but the light is brighter. There are a number of doors to the right and left of the stairs. An exit sign glows over one set in the wall at the right end of the corridor. Tom looks up and down. Tom. Mr. Price! An opposite door on Tom's left suddenly opens and Max half steps into the corridor. He appears composed, if a little ruffled. He looks Tom up and down indignantly. Max. Who the devil are you? How did you get in here? Tom. My name's Tom Shepard. I've an appointment to see Mr. and Mrs. Price at 3. In a shot of Max's head, a piece of Heinz spaghetti can be seen stuck to his shirt collar, the orange sauce staining the white fabric. Max's lips and chin seem to be stained in similar colour. He seems to realise who Tom is. He looks at his watch. Tom. I rang the bell, but there was no answer. Since the door was open, I wondered if maybe the bell was busted and you left the door open for me. Max. Yes, that's exactly it, Mr. Tom. Shepard. Max. Shepard. Yes, of course. I'm Mr. Price. He offers his hand. Tom takes it, and they shake very briefly. I am afraid my wife and I were having a spot of lunch, and talking over business matters and what have you, and, well, do come in. Scene 2. Interior of Max and Doreen's office. Max. Mr. Shepard? He indicates Doreen, sitting at her desk with perfect composure. My wife. Doreen, smiling warmly. Pleased to meet you, Mr. Shepard. Tom. Likewise. I'm sorry if I disturbed your lunch. I can call back later if you like. Doreen. Oh, don't be silly, Mr. Shepherd. She looks at Max. It's nothing we can't eat up later. Max, moving quickly to his desk and ignoring Doreen. Yes. Now, I understand you want to hire our ballroom for a rock concert. Is that correct? Tom. Yes, basically. It's a fairly small scale, too, just a couple of local bands. Max. Punk rockers, are they? On drugs and what have you? Tom, a little surprised. No, some of the songs may be a bit energetic, but they're not punk rockers as such, no. As for drugs, of course not. He laughs. They're all normal people, just like you or me. Focus from Tom's point of view, close up on spaghetti on Max's collar. Tom smiles awkwardly. Focus from Max's point of view at Tom's nose ring. Max. Well, I know I'm normal, but... Doreen follows Tom's eyes and sees the spaghetti on Max's collar. She smiles. Max. No offence, Mr. Shepherd, but this is all rather an odd game you're in now, isn't it? What with all this black leather and heavy metal and what have you. To be frank, it all strikes me as rather abnormal. Doreen reaches out and removes the spaghetti from Max's collar in a delicate, undisguised manner. He looks at it between her finger and thumb for a moment, then, her eyes not leaving Max's, she reaches out and drops it in the waste paper basket. Then she turns her smile upon Tom, who has watched all this without a flutter of expression. Doreen. What my husband is trying to say is we're rather unfamiliar with pop music events like the one you're proposing to stage here, and we were hoping that you might be able to fill us in on precisely what it would entail. Tom. Well, basically, I'd hire the ballroom off of you, I'd hire a PA and engineers, and I'd hire the bands. I get to keep the door take in order to pay for all of that, and maybe make a few quid, while you get to keep all the money made at the bar. That, in addition to the room hire fee, you can't lose. I might, but then, he smiles and gives a little shrug. That's rock and roll. Max looks mildly revolted. Max. Well, that all sounds very nice. But what about the illegal substances that people who come to these concerts are always taking? I'm not having hundreds of young punks floating up to the ceiling, out of their heads from smoking LSD and taking joints all night long. Doreen. What Max is anxious about, as I'm sure you can gather, is drugs. Obviously, we can't allow anything of an illegal nature to be going on in here. We have our licence to consider, not to mention the health and well-being of our customers. Tom. Oh, absolutely, Mrs. Price. I couldn't agree more. But you needn't worry too much about that. The majority of punters round here are clean living, law-abiding folk, you know. I'm sure we won't have any problem. Max. Oh, I'm sure we won't have any problems. I'll be employing my doorman on the night of your concert. They know all about dopes and what have you. Any young headbanger trying to smuggle drugs in here will be leaving in a different kind of purple haze, I can assure you. Tom. Well, it's a very sensible idea, Mr. Price. We can't be too careful, can we? Max. No, indeed, Mr. Shepherd, we certainly cannot. Tom. Big smile. So, how much will it cost me to hire a ballroom? Max. Smugly. £200. Tom. And when would I be able to hire it? Max's smugness falters. Doreen, opening a large black diary on her desk. When would you like it, Mr. Shepherd? Tom. How about the 27th of August? With the book's contents unseen by Tom, Doreen runs her fingers over the dates, all of which are empty. Doreen. I have a feeling we're busy around that time. Let's see. Yes. Saturday the 27th. Her finger stops at the blank date, and her voice raises to a cheerful note. Oh, you're in luck. We had an engagement party booked in, but they cancelled just the other day. Max, leaning over her shoulder, trying to look in the book. Eh? Doreen pushes Max gently but firmly away from her. Saturday the 27th of August, dear. It's free. Max, cottoning on. Oh. Then a further idea occurs to him. Oh, a Saturday. I'm afraid that's another price altogether. The smugness returns. £250 for Saturdays. Tom, looking steadily at Max. Fair enough. Max's expression falls. Tom. So, shall we say Saturday the 27th then? Tom extends his hand to Max, who looks at it as though unsure what it is. Doreen. Very well, Mr. Shepherd. Putting pencil to diary page. Saturday the 27th it is. We close the bar at 11 p.m. No extensions, I'm afraid. What time will you be opening the doors? Tom. Well, I'd like to get in around 3 p.m, then get the PA and stuff in and set up. Then the sound check's out of the way, of course, so I think doors should be around about 8:30 p.m. Max's hand, which had been resignedly nearing Tom's, is suddenly withdrawn. Max. 3 o'clock? Well, that's almost all day. I'm afraid that's another price structure altogether. £300. Tom's hand lowers as Max speaks. At the conclusion of his offer, Max, sensing victory, thrusts his hand out. Tom looks at it, then at Max, then quickly takes Max's hand between both of his and shakes it vigorously, smiling as Max's smugness again falls. Tom. Done. 300 quid. Shot of Max. He's despondently staring into the middle distance, his head shaking slightly from the thorough pumping his hand is getting. Fade to black. Scene 12. Written date. White writing on black background. Saturday, 27th August. 4-second shot. Scene 13. The ballroom. Daytime. The PA is assembled with speaker stacks either side of the stage. 2 sound engineers are setting up mic stands as a young band grapple with their amplifiers, drum kit, etc. on the stage. The ballroom floor is strewn with open flight cases, cables, stage lights, and general live gig equipment. Tom is talking to his friend and sometime associate, Dave Lawson. Dave is the same age as Tom. He dresses in the same T-shirt and jeans style. Tom. Well, Dave, here we go again. The smell of the grease paint, the roar of the crowd. I was beginning to think maybe we'd never get ourselves another venue sorted. Dave. Well, we don't know that we have got another venue sorted. Not if this Max bloke is half the knob-ends you reckon he is. Tom. He might be a knob-end, Dave, but like all knob-ends, he's manipulable. Dave. You're planning on manipulating this knob-end then, are you? Tom. Oh, yeah. It may take a while, but I'll have him wrapped around my little finger soon enough. Dave nods thoughtfully as a sound engineer walks over to Tom. Pete is tall and gangly. Long hair is pulled through the back of his baseball cap, and he has a permanent roll-up cigarette stuck to his lower lip. He wears a bum bag round his waist and wears a band tour T-shirt. Pete. Nice place, Tom. Nice acoustics. I bet this place has seen its fair share of big names in its time. Stones ever play here, did they? Pistols? Shawaddy Waddy? Dave. Shawaddy Waddy? They weren't exactly a big name, Pete. Not like the Stones or the Pistols. Pete. I don't know. 13 letters. That's pretty big, innit? Pete breaks out in fits of horrible laughter. Tom and Dave grin and bear it. Tom. Good one, Pete. Dave. Deadpan. Yeah, wicked. Pete, regaining control. Nah, seriously, fellas. Who we got tonight? Anyone I know? Dave. Chemical Toilet, Swelling and Flaming Beaver. Pete. Who's headlining? Tom. Flaming Beaver. Pete, shaking his head blankly. Nah, never heard of any of them. But you know what it's like these days. Band names, they all sound the same, don't they? He goes back to the mixing desk. Dave. By the way, Tom, what are you paying the bands tonight? Tom. I don't know. No guarantees. Petrol, expenses, and more if we make it. A voice from behind interrupts. Gareth, out of view. Oh, we'll make it, Tommy boy. Just make sure we get to see some of it this time. You know what I mean? Tom and Dave turn to see Gareth as he steps in between them, a tubby young man in his early 20s carrying a mobile phone and a Filofax with a big Keep Music Live sticker on it. Gareth is the manager of Chemical Toilet. Tom. Well, I'm sure I don't know what you mean, Gareth. If I make money, we all make money. You know that, mate. Gareth. Yeah, if you make money, Ladbrokes makes money more like. Tom. That is not true. I never ripped anybody off, Gareth. Least of all you and the lads from Chemical Toilet. It's just that you and the lads from Chemical Toilet have never made enough money to warrant getting paid. Gareth. Yeah? Well, those days are over, Tom. Things are about to change for the toilet big time. Not that they do it for the money anyway. They do it for the buzz of playing live in front of the fans. Dave. So we can count on the usual hardcore following of their mums and dads turning up, can we? Gareth. Yeah, probably. But it's Saturday night, so I suppose it depends on what's on telly, doesn't it? Which reminds me, how many can we have on the guest list tonight? Tom. 4, as agreed. 1 for each member of the band. Gareth. But what about me? Do I get a +1? Tom. You are a +1, mate. Gareth. What? Oh, come on, man. That only gives us 3 guests. I've got record company A&R coming down tonight. Tom nods politely, but his doubt is obvious. Oh, yeah. Dave. I can't see you getting A&R scouts this far out of London on a Saturday night, Gareth. They're all in town chasing after the latest hot tickets. Gareth. Chemical Toilet are the hot tickets, Dave. I'm telling you, they've changed. There's a real buzz about them now. Tom. No offence, Gareth, but if there's any buzz around a toilet, it's because it hasn't been flushed lately. 4 guests, mate, including you. So if you want to change the names, now's the time to do it. Gareth. So you're telling me I've got to pay to see my own band? Tom. Well, don't worry about it, mate. I mean, if you get the numbers in, you can pay yourself back out of your takings, can't you? It's like I say, if I make money... Gareth. Yeah, I know, we all make money. Sighs. Sod it. Leave the list as it is. Puffs up a little. I don't want to sign with them record companies anyway. Too commercial, you know? They try and change us into something unnatural. Dave. Like what? Talented? Gareth. Yeah. Realising the joke is on him. Oh, very funny, Dave. That's hilarious, that is. You wait, mate. Mark my words. Chemical Toilet are going to be the next big thing. Tom. Of course they are, Gareth. So we'll leave the list as it is then, yeah? A bass drum, thuds, and a few loosely strummed chords sound from the stage. Gareth. Yeah, all right. Listen, they're about to sound check. I have to go and make sure your soundie does a good job and doesn't make them sound crap. I'll catch you later, guys, yeah? He goes. Dave. What is it he sees in Chemical Toilet that we don't, Tom? Tom. Well, I know what I see in 'em, mate. 10 to 15 paying punters, more or less guaranteed. But what he sees, who knows? Maybe he's got some special gift that we lack. Maybe they really are going to be the next big thing. Chemical Toilet start playing. They are awful. Tom and Dave wince and exchange a mutual shaking of heads. Scene 14, Max and Doreen's office. Doreen is reading a magazine as Max enters. He is mildly agitated. Max. Have you seen the size of that PA downstairs? Massive, great black columns. It's like looking at the World Trade Center in a power cut. They don't need all that power for a place like this. Doreen, absently, still reading. I'm sure they know what they're doing, Max. After all, it is their job. Max. I don't know. There are many people in this world cocking things up left, right and centre and getting paid for it simply because they have the facilities to do it and others don't. Doreen looks up at Max, pauses, then looks down again. Yes, dear. Indeed there are. Max. Just because some hairy type sees an opportunity to make some money by buying the biggest stereo system in England doesn't mean to say he's actually qualified to twiddle all those little knobs that turn it on and get it going. Oh no. And then there's the cost. Oh, I bet it doesn't come cheap. I can't help wondering where young Mr. Shepherd is going to get the money to pay for all this. I mean, besides the hall hire and the PA, there's the bands themselves, and the box office attendant, and... Max is suddenly cut off by the loud, repetitious bam, bam, bam of the bass drum being sound-checked through the PA. Max, loudly, What the hell is that? Doreen, looking up at Max. Well, I'm no expert, but I think it's called a drum, Max. Max, a drum? God, it sounds more like the Battle of Trafalgar. What do they think they're doing? Doreen, annoyed. You know what they're doing, Max. They're sound-checking, just like they said they would be. Now, for God's sake, shut up and let them get on with it. She resumes reading with an air that tells Max that the subject is closed. Max looks vexed. He appears to be torn between going over and interfering downstairs or sitting tight until it is all over. He elects to sit and drops petulantly into his chair, hoisting the Daily Telegraph in front of his face like the slamming of a door. Clock hands spin off 5:30 to 7:45. The drumming has been replaced by the sound of a full electric band running through what sounds like a thundering cacophony. Doreen is now reading a book. Max is invisible behind his broadsheet. When the music suddenly stops, Doreen doesn't bat an eyelid, but Max lowers his paper, revealing 2 large twirled wads of cotton wool stuffed in his ears. Max, shouting, unaware of his volume. Is that it? Doreen, wincing away from his shouting. I don't know. Max, shouting. What? Doreen, quietly, wearily. Oh, you bastard. She gestures for him to remove the wool. Max removes cotton wool, then, in a normal tone, I said, is that it? Have they finished? Doreen. Yes, funnily enough, I heard you, but I don't know, I'm afraid. Suddenly, the band recommence their sound check. Max. Ah, that's it. I can't stand this any longer. He gets up and strides to the office door. Doreen. Where are you going? Max. I'm going to stop that unbearable noise. Doreen. You can't, Max. That's what they're paying for. Max. If I want to make money by having people inflict pain on me, then there are far more exotic ways to do it than this. Oh no. There's a time and a place for everything, Doreen, but that time is not now. He leaves. Doreen, smiling quietly to herself, but looking at the door through which Max has just left. No, dear. Scene 15. The ballroom. Swelling, crashing through a song on stage, Tom is watching them as Dave comes up and draws him into the foyer. Scene 16. The foyer. Shadowy, unlit. Outside through the glass doors we can see punters are queuing up. Dave. Bad news, Tom. Flaming Beaver just phoned. They can't make it tonight. Tom, exasperated. What? Why? Dave. Apparently their guitarist lost his fingers in a bizarre pet shop accident this afternoon. Tom. Did they say what happened? Dave. Well, he just started working in the shop and he was trying to feed sunflower seeds to what he thought was a gerbil. Tom. So what was it? Dave. A horse. Tom. What? I don't understand. Dave. Well, you know you're supposed to offer them food on the flat of your palm. Holds palm upward. But he was going like this. Offers imaginary sunflower seeds between thumb and forefinger. Tom. Oh, what an idiot. No wonder. They both shake their heads in disbelief. Tom notices something through the doors to the ballroom. Tom. Uh-oh. Dave follows his glance. Scene 17. The ballroom. Max is shouting and jumping around angrily, unheard over the volume of the band. Pete is looking at him, slightly concerned. Some of the band begin to imitate his angry jumping. Scene 18. The foyer. Dave. Who's that nutter? Tom, still looking at Max. Well, that's Max. Come on. Scene 19. The ballroom. Tom hurries across to the mixing desk, unseen by the hopping mad form of Max, and waves a finger desperately in front of his throat to Pete, the sound engineer. Pete nods, understanding, waves to the band, shaking his head, and brings down the slide control marked main output level to 0. The music stops. Max, shouting with his eyes closed, "Ark up, you!" He stops, realizing the silence, and opens his eyes. Tom, cautiously, "Everything all right, Max?" Max, angrily, "That's Mr. Price to you, young man. And no, everything's not all right. This is too loud. Where do you think your audience are that you need to play this loud? Sweden? No!" Shaking his head with finality. "I can't have this racket shaking my ballroom to pieces. It's unacceptable." Tom, "But it has to be that loud. That's the way the punters like it." Max, "I don't care what the punters like, Mr. Shepherd. If the punters want to deafen themselves, then they can go somewhere else to do it." Tom, "But they're all outside, Mr. Price. I can't just tell them to clear off." Max looks at him a moment, then strides to the foyer. As he goes, Doreen enters the ballroom from the staff access door. Scene 20. The foyer. It is dark outside, but the foyer is lit warmly, but not brilliantly. Cosy, attractive to passers-by. 2 doormen dressed in classic doorman tucks and ties stand smoking and chatting quietly as Max enters. Through the glass doors we can see a large number of punters waiting to get in. They too are chatting, smoking, messing about a bit as they wait for the doors to open. The doormen, George and Virgil, straighten when they see Max. George and Virgil, together. "Evening, Mr. Price." Max ignores them and looks through the foyer doors. Behind him, Doreen enters, followed by Tom. Max, "Good God! I'm not having that lot in my ballroom. They'll leave it looking like the bloody Somme." Doreen, "Don't be silly, Max. They're just youngsters." Max, pointing frantically, Look! They're smoking drugs!" Outside we see 2 ordinary-looking lads smoking cigarettes. Virgil, "Nah, they're your ordinary cigarettes, Mr. Price. The cannabis cigarette, or reefer, is a bit more of a handmade—" Virgil is cut off by a fierce stare from Max. Tom, "He's right, Max. There's—" Max, turning with open hostility towards Tom. "That's Mr. Price, thank you very much. And how come, may I ask, you are so familiar with the appearance of illegal substances, Mr. Shepherd?" Tom, taken aback. Max, "As I thought. It takes one to know one, doesn't it? Right!" To the doormen. "Let's get this legion of the damned off my doorstep." Doreen. Max, Max, cutting her off with his hand raised in a stop gesture and turning again to Tom. Now, since you've only been here for half the time we agreed, I'll settle for £150, but I want cash. Tom, with utter disbelief. What? This is ridiculous. How can I pay you, or anybody else for that matter, when we haven't taken a penny through the doors? Max, shrugging his shoulders and turning up his palms in a don't ask me expression. That is not my problem, Mr. Shepherd. I can only advise you to think more carefully should you attempt staging a satanic orgy in a respectable establishment like Ditterballs again. Max extends his palm to Tom in a pay-up gesture. Tom, openly angry. I can't believe this. We've got a deal, Max. Max, shouting, Don't call me Max! George! George, stepping forward, a concerned look on his face that suggests this is the first time he has seen his employer like this. Yes, Mr. Price? Max, his eyes still fixed on Tom. Escort Mr. Shepherd from the premises. To Tom. I shall expect to hear from you directly concerning the outstanding moneys, Mr. Shepherd. But for now, good evening. Tom, stunned disbelief. But... George moves towards Tom. George. Come along, please, sir. He takes Tom gently but firmly by the back of the arm and attempts to steer him to the doors. Tom. To George. Get off me! To Max. We had a deal! At the top of his lungs. Dave! He begins to struggle. Doreen. To Max. I really think you ought to reconsider. Max. Whose side are you on, Doreen? Tom and George stumble forward and bump into Max. Tom breaks free of George's grip and manages to punch George on the chin. Dave comes through the doors and jumps on Virgil's back as he goes for Tom. George turns to face Tom, draws back his fist and lets fly. Tom ducks and George's fist strikes Max squarely in the face. Max goes down, out like a light. George. Oh, shit. He runs to Max's side. Mr. Price? Mr. Price! All around, the fight comes to an end with Max the centre of attention. Doreen kneels down next to Max. It's all right, George. He'll live. George, imploringly. It was an accident, Mrs. Price. You saw what happened. If it hadn't been for... Doreen. Yes, George, it's all right. To Tom. I'm dreadfully sorry for all this, Mr. Shepherd. I don't know what came over my husband. Are you all right? Tom. Yeah, I'm fine. To George. Sorry about that, mate. George acknowledges him with a nod that implies it is forgotten. Doreen. Good. Well, if you'd like to finish preparations for your gig, I think my husband needs to lie down. She looks at George and Virgil. Can you give me a hand getting him upstairs? I'm sure you'll make it back in good time for the opening of the doors. The doormen pick Max up between them and carry him out of the foyer. Tom turns to Doreen. Tom. Thank you, Mrs. Price. Doreen. Please, call me Doreen. And may I call you Tom? Tom. Sure, yeah. Doreen, smiling. Good. Well, I'm sure everything will go very nicely, Tom. If you need anything, just tell Sally on the bar. And if she can't help you, she'll just give me a bus upstairs. In the meantime, my place is at my husband's side. He needs me. Exit Doreen. Dave, exasperated disbelief. What a wanker! Are you really all right? Tom. Yeah. We'll talk about it later. Is your brother still all right for doing the box office? Dave. Yeah, me mum's bringing him down. Tom, brightly. Oh, your mum? Nodding. Good. Scene 22, the foyer, 30 minutes later. The doors are open and punters are queuing at the box office and going in. The doormen are regulating the crowd as they enter. Dave's brother, about 16 years old, is taking money and being pleasant in the box office. In the background, we hear music booming. Scene 23, the ballroom. The room is full of punters. Chemical Toilet are on stage. The bar is very busy with both Sally and Gary working hard but clearly enjoying it. Pete is twiddling knobs with a roll-up cigarette hanging off his lip, and his mate, Reggie, is looking absently at the band. Tom and Dave are watching the band from near the back of the room. Dave notices his mum coming towards them. Dave. Here comes me mum. I don't know why she doesn't go home and come back to pick Tim up later. Cut to Tom's face as he sees Dave's mum. His eyes widen and his mouth opens slightly. Cut to an attractive but normal-looking, quite plainly dressed woman in her 50s, though seen from Tom's point of view, cut to soft-focus shot with no sound except a sexy saxophone riff a la old B-movies. Tom turns away to a camera aside and bites his finger with suppressed desire. Dave's mum. Hello, David. Hello, Tom. Dave. All right, Mum. Dave's mum. Who's this playing then? Tom, awkwardly. It's Chemical Toilet, Mrs. Lawson. Dave's mum. Oh, lovely. Tom suddenly notices someone beyond Dave's mum. From his point of view, we see in the audience the singer of this week's guest band. Tom. Here, Dave, isn't that the singer out of Beep? Insert band name here. We see the singer again. Dave. Yeah, he's on the guest list. Beep. Are all here to see Swelling. Tom looks thoughtful a moment before moving off in the singer's direction. From a distance, we see Tom introduce himself and start chatting to the singer. Scene 24. Dave is near the bar talking to a punter when Tom arrives with a satisfied smile on his face. Dave. Where have you been? Swelling have finished and the crowd are wondering where Flaming Beaver are. What are we going to do? Tom points at the stage where Beep are now taking the stage. The singer approaches the mic. Scene 25. The stage. Singer. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid Flaming Beaver couldn't make it tonight. We're Beep. The band go into their current single. The crowd love it. As the song plays, we see different shots from around the hall of characters we have been introduced to throughout the episode. When the song ends, the audience respond with big cheers and applause. Scene 26. The ballroom after the show. George and Virgil are politely encouraging straggling punters to leave. Sally and Gary are wandering around collecting towers of stacked plastic pint glasses. Pete and Reggie are gathering leads and microphone stands from the stage, while various band members are picking up their guitar cases, drums and amplifiers from around the stage area. Tom, Dave and Gareth are near the back of the hall, where Tom is handing over a small wad of notes to Gareth as Doreen comes over to join them. Tom. All right, Gareth, if anything else comes up, we'll give you a call. Gareth. Cheers then, Tom. I told you they'd do the business, didn't I? Tom. And I never doubted you for a minute, mate. Gareth walks away smiling. Doreen. How did it go, Tom? Well, I hope. Oh, very well, thank you, Doreen. He hands her a wad of money. Here's the 300 we agreed. Doreen, taking the money. Thank you. Tom. How's Mr. Price? Max, out of view. Mr. Price is pissed off. Max strides towards them over a carpet of crushed plastic glasses, empty cigarette packets and beer bottles. Doreen. Max, how's your head, dear? Max. Never mind my head, dear. I can't believe you actually let this carnage go ahead. Look at the place. It's been desecrated. To think... Doreen. To think we took more over the bar tonight than we have in all the time since we first opened. Max is silenced, mildly shocked. He looks at Doreen, who smiles at him, then to Tom, who, sensing imminent apology, turns to Dave with a disappointed sigh. Tom. Well, Dave, I suppose we'd better be on our way. Max quickly exchanges a worried look with Doreen. Tom, looking back at Doreen and Max. Well, it's been interesting doing business with you, Mr. and Mrs. Price. He extends his hand. Max, breaking into a big smile and taking Tom's hand between both of his and pumping it warmly. Oh, please, call me Max, Mr. Shepherd, or may I call you Tom? Tom. Max. Splendid, splendid the way you coped tonight, Tom. I don't mind telling you I had my worries at first, but that little bang on the head put me right, eh? Laughs. Needless to say, if you'd ever like to put anything else on here again in the future, we'd be only too happy to oblige. Perhaps some famous groups like Phil Collins or Shakin' Stevens. Tom looks knowingly aside at Dave. Perhaps we could, Max. Looks back at Max, smiling. Perhaps we could. Max puts his arm around Doreen. Max. Well, pop in and see us sometime. Tomorrow, maybe. Tom. I'll call you and make an appointment. Max. Do. Tom. Oh, I will. Nodding and smiling, he turns away to walk with Dave and says, aside, Nutter. Dave. Will you call him? Tom. Oh, yeah. This is a potential gold mine, Dave. The fact that the owner's an absolute mental case is a minor detail. Dave, with gusto. All right. laughs. Here, what did you pay? Beep. In order to get them to stand in tonight. Tom, nothing. They wouldn't do it for money. Dave, why'd you get them to do it then? Tom, well, funnily enough, they all seem pretty taken with your mum. So they agreed to do the gig if I gave them an introduction. Dave stops smiling and looks confused. He looks aside. Cut away to beep, gathered around Dave's mum, smiling love-struck smiles at her as she chats politely with them. And from Tom's point of view, the sexy saxophone riff plays over the shot. Dave looks back at Tom, still confused. Tom smiles. Dave frowns. Freeze on Dave's frown. End credit sequence. The music you're listening to is called The Show Must Be Go by Kevin MacLeod. For more information, visit incomptech.com. And so there we are, ladies and gentlemen, Glitterballs Episode 1. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, then do please give it a like. I'll post more episodes in the future, so be sure and subscribe and keep an eye out for Episode 2, Curry, coming soon.